当前我们要牢牢把握世界多极化、经济全球化大势。
On today's World Insight with Tian Wei, Asian leaders descend on Bishkek for the SCO Summit. How can they maintain security over the Eurasian landmass? And U.S. trade hawks opt to decouple the Chinese and U.S. economies. Can the world's biggest economies end this trade brinkmanship?
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. The program is coming to you live on CGTN. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, has wrapped up its 2019 summit in the Kyrgyz capital Bishkek. Chinese President Xi Jinping called for member states to build a closer community with a shared future. The leaders attending the summit issue a joint communique aiming to boost the cooperation in diverse fields, including security, trade, agriculture, you name it. Before we turn to our panelists about what is the difference this meeting will make, take a look at this first.
A gathering of 12 leaders in Bishkek to address security, regional development, and global governance. Some major tasks of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. President Xi says despite global uncertainties, the trend of peace, development, and win-win cooperation will remain unchanged. He has called for the SCO to be built into an organization that's not only united and inclusive, but also enjoys mutual trust while securing mutual benefits. It also includes facilitating trade in the region by taking advantage of the Belt and Road Initiative.
We should advocate and maintain the multilateral trade mechanism, jointly build an open global economy. We need to promote policy-making to facilitate the free and convenient flow of trade and investment. We can utilize cooperative platforms like China International Import-Expo to boost the openness, exchange, and integration of regional economy.
This year's summit is held amid fierce security challenges in the region. One of SCO's dialogue partners, Sri Lanka, suffered a series of terrorist attacks in April. In 2018, over 360 crimes relating to terrorism and extremism were suppressed.
We need to uphold a security concept that is common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable. We need to continue to enhance the legal basis for security cooperation between members, enhance information sharing and joint operations. We should take comprehensive measures to fight terrorism, separatism, and extremism, boost security, and prevent the return of extremist forces.
Given the danger of terrorism from Afghanistan, a roadmap titled Further Action of the SCO Afghanistan Contact Group was signed. A communique after the summit says the SCO is devoted to building a new type of international relations and building a shared future for mankind. Members will work on politics, security, and deepen economic cooperation.
For more on the SCO Summit, we have in Moscow Alexander Lukin, Professor and Director of East Asian and SCO Studies from the Moscow State Institute of International Relations. Good to see you, Professor, once again after the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Good to see you. In New Delhi, India, we have retired Major General Deepankar Banerjee, Senior Strategic Consultant and former Director and Head of the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. Good to see you as well, sir. And in our Beijing studio, Cui Hongjian, Director of the Department of European Studies from the China Institute of International Studies. Welcome to the three of you, gentlemen. I want to start with you, Professor Lukin. You and I were talking about it, the China-Russia relations during the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, after Chinese President's state visit to Moscow. So, Professor Lukin, how is the tango between Moscow and Beijing making a sense within the framework of SCO now?
Well, Russia and China were, of course, among the founders of SCO. There used to be 6 countries, founding countries, but China and Russia are the strongest and the largest ones. So, of course, they had kind of promoted all the ideas, original ideas of SCO. And this is the cooperation in security sphere, in economics, and in humanitarian or cultural sphere. But now it's very important that a year ago the organization was also joined by two more big countries, India and Pakistan.
Sure.
India is a larger one. So it's not just an organization now, as some claimed before, dominated by Russia and China. India is also a big country, and I think it's a positive step because it unites now like the major powers of, I would say, non-Western world. It doesn't mean that it's anti-Western, but it shares major values and ideas about the multipolar world, about pluralistic system of which should be created in the world.
Yes.
Which is very important in contemporary situation where some countries try to dominate in the world.
Now, earlier we've seen some footages coming from those participating in the SCO Summit, coming from Iran, from India, Pakistan, and certainly China, Russia. Professor Cui, I want to go to you. Even though, as Mr. Lukin argued, that it is multipolar also within the SCO as well, with India, Pakistan joining, and some of the other players. But China-Russia's tango extremely important from the very beginning of this mechanism. So, Mr. Cui, now with the trade war China apparently is having with the United States, and Russia, its relations with the quote-unquote the West and not necessarily warming up, what are the two countries looking for in each other, within SCO particularly, Mr. Cui?
I think now the situation, yes, I think both China and Russia, we should take consideration about some, not only a regional situation and also global issues, global situation. Indeed, but both China and Russia, we are facing some, pressures from United States, maybe in a different way, different approach. But I think now, yes, it's also a critical time for SCO. So that's the reason why President Xi stressed this solidarity for all of the members of the SCO, and also try to find out the, some new fields and some new areas, especially in economic cooperation, energy, and everything. So yes, I think to take use of the SCO, both China, Russia, and other members, and they can find out maybe some capability to deal with any challenge, not only from United States and also from this uncertainty and instability at a regional and a global level.
Common political aspiration, Professor Lukin, many wonder, has to be based on something concrete. Of course, Belt and Road Initiative, China initiated together with others to build a platform, together with the Eurasian Economic Community or Union, as you name it, from Russia, could be one of those areas both sides work on. But we've seen bilateral trade coming up, and yet exactly how to implement these two mechanisms when it comes to real cooperation, do we see much signs that this will translate into the fabrics of good relations within this framework?
Well, if you mean the SCO, not bilateral relations, so there are some things that SCO is doing better and some things it's doing worse. Well, the most important field and the most successful field, I would say, is security cooperation and anti-terrorist activities. Well, one should understand that SCO has no joint military forces as anti-terrorist forces, so it doesn't, as a group, take any actions against terrorist organizations. But there is a anti-terrorist structure which is working in a permanent organization, which is with its office in Tashkent. And what the countries are doing is that their special forces exchange information on terrorists there. They are kind of discussing this issue, and which is of course very important. And also they're compiling lists of terrorists. Also there are anti-terrorist annual military exercises in which all countries or several countries of SCO take part. So they kind of exchange their experience in that. So this is an important part. But unfortunately, economics is not a strong field within the SCO. So if you are talking about bilateral trade, for example, Russia and China, it's developing pretty well, but it has little to do with SCO as an organization.
Yes, so far, however, SCO has been having, since recent years, some common aspiration of developing all rounds of relationship, including about trade, including about other kinds of cooperation. That's why I want to go to you, Major General Banerjee, coming from India. I mean, we do not want to leave big players like India, Pakistan within the FCO alone, because you are playing another layer of bringing new momentum to the organization, but at the same time bringing new possibilities of a divided agenda, because there are things between the two countries that's happening. We all know that, some conflicts and challenges. Well, at the same time, there are different competing priorities when you have India and Pakistan joining the SCO compared to earlier times. So what do you make of it now? Major General, is it really streamlined well now, this time at least?
Yes. Let's be absolutely clear that Shanghai Cooperation Organization today is the largest and most significant regional cooperation organization in the world. In terms of the personnel involved, the population of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is more than half the total world population. Significant countries are involved in it. It is located in a very interesting and a conflict-prone region of the world, in the entire Asian region. And therefore, the success of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is an important factor for all of us. From India, we do not wish to bring the bilateral issues or problems with other neighbors into the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. These issues India would like to resolve bilaterally, cooperatively, and with concessions and understanding, but based on pure practical measures of implementability as well as strong cooperation. What India would like to see in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is an emerging structure that will now set out for the rest of the world a new method of cooperation in all matters of peace, security, and development. And in that context, I would like to congratulate the participants at the summit now for this wonderful final communique at the end of the summit. I think this summarizes very clearly the tasks ahead and the challenges that the region has to face in order to deal with the conflicts of the world.
You could argue, Mr. Cui, that the SCO so far is incorporating more than half of the population of the world. After all, you have China, India, the biggest populous countries in the world joining, Pakistan, another big one. But on the other hand, how much impact will it really make as a result compared to its political aspirations? This is an interesting question, isn't it? A mechanism exists. Everybody congratulate that. But how much will the mechanism translate into real change? That's another issue.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, it's a very big challenge, I think. Faced by the SCO, how to deliver its commitment, how to transfer its mechanism and so many documents into actions, into concrete policies. So I think that's also a reason why this time in Bishkek, President Xi called for kind of to take more responsibility and to have some more implementation for any kind of documents, principles of SCO. So now, especially I think after its first enlargement, now it becomes a trans-regional organization. So I think which means that not only for the Central Asia, for China and Russia, especially in the background of uncertainty, I think for the world, it will give more, I think firstly not an opportunity, firstly it's a challenge for the SCO. It has to take some more responsibility. Otherwise, not only it will, limit its influence on some regional and global level, and also it could not, stop any negative impact from outside.
Right. Director General, Major General Banerjee, you've been seeing, analogies like if you make a plane, okay? You try to make a plane, manufacturing a plane, after years of working on it, you want it to take off, particularly at a time when you have problems on the ground. You want the plane to take off to do the rescue and other tasks. SCO, same. After years of building it, you want it to take off and be able to do and finish some of the important tasks that you just analyzed. But how much does it take to really take off? What are some of the challenges now, why it is still not yet up to the expectation, action-wise?
That's a very excellent question, and that is the most important challenge lying ahead of the SCO. But let us not also be disappointed. Organizations such as this, large regional cooperation organizations, cannot deliver results within just a very short period of time. And of course, India and Pakistan are members just about 2 years ago. And so therefore, these issues will take time, and we should be patient with that. But nevertheless, let me identify the immediate challenges that confront the SCO and perhaps largely the whole global community. There's today a change in the global order. Power shift is taking place from country to country, from region to region. The center of global activities will be more in the Asia-Pacific and in Asia rather than in Europe or elsewhere. And therefore, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization will have a very important role. The immediate challenges, firstly, is of course the likely spread of the Islamic State, the global terrorist organization, from heart of Europe probably to Asia. And therefore, terrorism remains a significant challenge in front of the SCO. And there's an agreement among SCO members, but actions have to be taken to deal with terrorism.
Major General Banerjee, I have to come in and interrupt here, because all these challenges and sets of challenges, we've heard it over and over again. But the question really I ask is, what is preventing us from resolving some of these problems? What are some of the baby steps that can be taken? Now you have joint exercises, that's okay, that's great, but that's already happening for years. So what's the next step? So Professor Lukin, you have something more concrete for us?
Well, all this talk about ineffectiveness of organizations is kind of non-professional, I would say. The first, well, nothing is perfect in this world, and journalists always say that everything is imperfect. Well, the thing is that, well, let's take NATO. First NATO operation was in '99. So you can also ask, what did you do, people, for 50 years? But the fact that there is no war, there was no war before that, maybe it was a contribution by NATO. So a result of an organization work is not necessarily that something is happening, but that something is not happening. There is more security, perhaps, in this region because that Shanghai Cooperation Organization exists and works in a way that you don't see it. But at the same time, it does mean that we shouldn't criticize it. I often criticize it for example, for lack of economic cooperation.
I'm just asking what is preventing it from doing more, and what can be done now. It's not criticizing, it's thinking about it proactively.
Well, in economics, for example, the level of development of member states is very different. So some less developed countries are kind of apprehensive about more developed countries, so that's why they're afraid for their internal markets. So despite the fact that there is a goal in charter, an SCO charter, that SCO should aim at building a free trade zone, it is, well, some countries are still kind of not very keen on that. It's not Russia and China. Russia and China are talking about their own free trade zone, and also also members of Eurasian Economic Union.
Okay,
but there
all
are
these
smaller
will be
countries
understood,
within
and
SCO.
it is only appropriate that we understood the circumstances as much as possible, but there's still an issue of delivery, and delivery is important at a time of dramatic change. Mr. Cui, your thoughts before we wrap it up.
I think it's very clear that, firstly, SCO needs to have some more ambition. I think that it could be one of the most important regional organization, not only the biggest one. And also, secondly, there could be some more integration and connectivity within SCO.
Like what?
For example, more infrastructure and more economic cooperation and more investment. Once there are a so-called community of common interests, certainly there will be a common requirements and a common consensus and a common responsibilities.
Right.
And the third is, I think that not only China and Russia, some other bigger members like India should also take some more responsibilities economically and also politically, strategically.
Well, it's been a wonderful conversation with the three of you, gentlemen, certainly to hear different perspectives and how to see the current realities. As once again, I want to emphasize here that is, we are not here to criticize anyone, but asking why and what can be done. And thank you so much for the three of you, your input. Alexander Lukin, Dipanka Banerjee, Cui Hongjian. Really appreciate it. Thank you.